Hey everyone, welcome to the E2 Effective Elders podcast. E2 is devoted to coaching your elder team to win by providing biblical and practical resources in authentic relationships. E2 wants nothing more than to equip you to move God's kingdom forward in the place you're serving Jesus. Visit us at e2elders.org and please share this good word with others.
Hey friends, thanks for tuning in to the E2 podcast, and how grateful we are to our partners in ministry, CDF Capital. Dusty Rubeck, president of CDF Capital, a friend of mine and a longtime supporter of E2 Effective Elders. This podcast and much of what we do would not be possible without their investment in elders across the country and around the world. And our thanks also to a long time partner church, Cedar Creek Church in Fort Wayne, Indiana. We have got Jayme Hudson, lead elder, and we've got Greg Krafft, lead minister, who I happened to have as a student years ago in seminary. And I won't tell any stories on you, Greg.
Please, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us today, brothers.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, Gary.
That's our privilege. We are so grateful at E2 for the years that you have invested in this ministry. We're most grateful that we've got this partnership with you guys.
Absolutely. We appreciate what E2 does, Gary, obviously, with just the practical equipment and content and publications, but also just the insight and the encouragement that your team produces is awesome. So for first-time viewers, stick with us.
Yeah, it's really a privilege to be used of the Lord in this way. Now, gentlemen, I had asked if you guys would join us in the podcast. We are focusing these mini podcasts on the topic of the lead elder and the lead minister working together as a band of brothers, doing their very best relationally for the well-being of the rest of the staff and the rest of the elder team, so that they can watch the two of you lead well and do life well as brothers. So how would you advise us, speaking into our lives, many people listening in, watching the podcast, telling us what works good for the two of you to be at your very best as brothers?
Okay, I'll go first on this. Jayme and I have known each other over 20 years. And I think just a long friendship outside of this context has been very helpful. And I think something that's been helpful for us is I served as an elder for 7 years before I was a minister in one of the full-time ministry here in this capacity, and I served as an elder chair. Mm-hmm. So I think that gives us some context in understanding, what's important from that end. And I think just the trust. I mean, loving the Lord and His church here together, there's a lot of common ground, and I think finding that beyond just the role is important. That's what I would say is one of the main things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I imagine, trust is going to be a common thread in the relationship between lead elder and lead minister. And it's not just, hey, I trust in this man's confidence, but you trust in his heart, you trust in his forgiveness, you trust in his follow through and his motive and his commitment to putting the church first and all those things. So it covers a lot of ground there. And in my mind, Gary, there's no substitute for spending time together. Mm-hmm. So to build a relationship where you can develop that level of trust and just feel safe in an environment where you can have conversations about hard things or great things. Mm-hmm. There's no substitute for just spending time together.
Right. So both of you bring to the forefront here a couple of very key words. So Greg, when you have had the unique opportunity to be an elder at Cedar Creek, an elder chair at Cedar Creek, before you become the preacher of Cedar Creek. So you know exactly the stuff that Jayme's got to deal with because you had to deal with it.
Absolutely.
So that contextual understanding, most ministers are not going to have in most churches. So that's what makes Cedar Creek unique. And then Jayme, when you bring up that word trust, that's a pretty significant word. And obviously we make deposits to the bank of trust And you mentioned about conversation. So in both of those things, context of knowing what Jayme's going through, and then trust, what do you guys talk about then to deepen the trust factor? Is it just, business as usual? Or how do you take those conversations to places to where you really build the deposit of trust?
Yeah. So what we talk about is everything. And so business related, church related, ministry related, but personal too. So it's hard to have a deep, close, intimate relationship with somebody without knowing their life, knowing about them, about their families, about their personal struggles. So being very real with each other about what we struggle with and praying for each other in that. And it gets as deep as you can go, I think, as far as content. Do you find yourself having to dig for that kind of transparency from Greg, or is he willing to be transparent with you? Greg is an open book with me, and I feel like I am with him. And if I'm not, he'll dig if he has to, And I mean, part of that's just having the trust there of, hey, don't beat around the bush. Just, tell me what's going on, what's on your heart.
A while to get to this place?
I don't know that you can't get there without spending time together and having I mean, we spent years serving together in different capacities also. When I wasn't in the eldership and when he wasn't the preacher, but I wanted to make one side comment about Greg's mentioning that he has been in basically all the chairs, right? That's not just a benefit for Greg. It is, but not just for him. It's a benefit for the elder team to know that he's been there. We know we can say certain things or express certain things in ways that we know he will understand. And also Matt, who serves on staff too, has been there. So that might not be practical advice because you can't necessarily have somebody go through the path Greg went through, but it is something that absolutely contributes to our relationship and our teams our leadership team working together.
Great. Go ahead.
I want to just kind of add on to that. The other thing is you watch how a brother lives their life. It's not just the business of church talking about church business. It's just how they live their life. You're like, I just like being around this guy. I trust him. He has great character. He has integrity. Those are the things you see. It's that how people live when no one's watching, when we're not in a role, but just as brothers in Christ, just the way they live their life. I think that's an important piece as well.
How, when you mention spending time with one another, especially in the midst of sheltering in place with COVID, how do you try to still leverage that time with one another?
It's been a challenge. Yeah. It's been difficult to get face-to-face time. It's been a little bit easier in the last couple of weeks. But with technology and cell phones, it's not difficult to stay in touch.
So pre-COVID, what did it look like pre-COVID?
Well, maybe I would be here and Jayme would come into the church and we might just spend a couple hours just talking about everything.
Wow.
In the office, we would talk about what's going on with church, but in our families and current events, just kind of all mixed together. It wasn't compartmentalized. It wasn't, we're going to talk about this, then this is just kind of talking about life and kind of sprinkling that through.
Yeah, that's powerful. And was that 2-hour conversation or 90-minute conversation scheduled, or was it spontaneous?
Yeah, it's been both. It's been both. Hey, I'm going to be swinging by. You're going to have some time? Yes.
Okay, got it.
Or we'll set something like, hey, I'm going to be in on Tuesday. But it's that you got some time and we just talk.
That's very important. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Especially when you are investing that kind of time with one another. Yeah. Excellent. No, that's quite good. How do you see the rest of the elders, as well as the remainder of the staff, learning from your example? Or not?
I'll let you go first.
that sort of feels a little bit like a loaded question to fill it with any sort of humility, but I'll try my best. And I mean, we're all obligated to be Christ-like as much as we can, and we all, I think, we all pursue that.
Right.
And none of us are perfect.
Right.
But I think, especially in a meeting setting, because that's when we're most exposed to one another and we're in group together, just maintaining, leading the meetings, just maintaining some sort of baseline for a mutual level of respect and honoring one another in how we speak. And even if it gets challenging, like it does in all elder meetings, if the discussion gets challenging or whatever, recognizing what's the most important thing and, tempering any tempers if they happen to come up, that kind of thing. So I think as far as leading by example, I try as much as I can to sort of keep ahead of where the conversation's going and make sure that we're all, keeping the most important thing the most important.
Good. Anything, Greg, on that one?
Yeah, I would say probably one of the things I appreciate the most is not feeling like I work for the elders, if that makes sense. We're all working together with the staff. And Jayme is really good about saying, that's a staff thing. You just kind of let us know how this is going, not micromanaging everything. And I know that's a switch, at least for Cedar Creek a little bit. Years ago, there was a thought more where an elder had to be good at everything. You know what I mean? They had to be really good at visitation and good at teaching and good at that. I think we're learning to lean into the strengths of each individual. And the other elders can backfill a little bit where that guy's not strong, where not everyone has to be great at this thing. That's why a plurality is so important.
Yes.
So I think we've been able to recognize each other's strengths and lean into those and level the playing field of the team, if you will.
Good.
I remember, Gary, you giving an illustration. I don't remember how long ago it was when we were at an event down there, but I also saw it on one of your recent podcasts here about corporate leadership and flipping it horizontal from vertical. And I feel like
it's fluid.
Yes, and I feel like we're still in transition of that. To be frank, and it's a good thing. We're growing from it. And so we're on that path, I think. Yeah. And that's where we want to be. And it does help that Greg and Matt were, elders. And so there's a lot of common understanding there.
Yeah. I just want to, first of all, commend you guys for having worked hard at creating this health between the two of you relationally. And secondly, I want to thank you for setting an example for the rest of the leadership team there at Cedar Creek, because when they see you two investing this kind of time and energy and effort to build trust and transparency between the two of you, then they can look at you and they can say, that's what we want. I want that in my life with the other leaders of the church. And that's why the two of you are pivotal examples at Cedar Creek. So we thank you. And I believe with all my heart, too, that Cedar Creek is a great model church in the northeast corner of Indiana, kind of like a modern-day Thessalonica, as Paul said in 1 Thessalonians 1. He says in verse 7, and you have become an example, a model to all of the churches throughout Macedonia and Achaia, and Cedar Creek is that. So thank you for doing that well. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, gentlemen, thanks for your time and your example and your partnership. We're most grateful.
All right. Thanks, Gary.
Blessings.
Take care.
Great day.